Hey friends, have you ever woken up feeling like your mind is already too heavy to even start the day? Ever noticed how your thoughts keep spinning past regrets, future worries, or what people might think, leaving you exhausted before you've even begun? What if I told you that your mind doesn't have to feel like this every day? What if there was a way to let go of mental clutter, finally breathe freely, and live with clarity and calm even in the chaos of modern life? In this video, we're diving into a book that doesn't promise magic, but instead gives you real practical ways to clean your mind. You'll discover, why do our minds keep overthinking even when we don't want them to? How can small pauses in your day actually reset your brain and reduce stress? Why is worrying about the future so harmful, and how can we live fully in the present? How can you stop letting negative thoughts control your decisions? What daily habits can slowly turn mental chaos into peace? How can understanding your mind help you handle fear, stress, and uncertainty with ease? The answers to these questions and so much more are hidden in the pages of this book. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll have practical tools to lighten your mental load, regain control of your thoughts, and finally find a calm that stays. Are you ready to discover how your mind can become your greatest ally instead of your biggest enemy? Let's get started. Chapter 1. Your mind feels heavy, and that's not a failure. Imagine waking up in the morning without doing anything. Yet you already feel exhausted. Your body is still, but your mind is crowded. Thoughts are racing, anxiety is sitting in your chest, and your head feels cluttered like a room packed with junk where nothing is easy to find. This is not weakness. This is the reality for most people today. The world has become faster, louder, and more demanding, and without realizing it, our minds have been carrying all of that weight. This book begins by addressing that invisible burden. Not with quick fixes or magical promises, but with a calm and honest truth. Your mind is a space. And if you never clean a space, it naturally fills up with noise. The authors explain that worry, fear, and negative thinking don't just appear out of nowhere. They are habits. And the most important part, habits can be changed. This is where the real journey starts, not by fixing you, but by helping you realize something powerful. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are simply carrying too much inside your mind. Most of us don't even notice what we think all day. Thoughts about the past, fear of the future, other people's opinions, our own mistakes, they keep looping non-stop. And when so many voices exist in your head, peace doesn't get a chance to enter. The book makes a crucial point early on. Worry itself is not the problem. Giving worry constant attention is. We repeat the same thoughts again and again, inflate them, and then start fearing the very stories we created. Not every thought deserves belief. Not every idea in your mind is truth. Some thoughts are meant to pass like clouds drifting through the sky. But instead of letting them go, we grab onto them and say, "This is my life. This is who I am." And that's where the heaviness begins. Mental clarity doesn't mean stopping thoughts. It means learning to recognize which thoughts matter and which ones don't. The authors explain how the mind has a habit of assuming the worst. A late reply feels personal. A small mistake turns into self-judgment. Over time, this pattern slowly builds anxiety until worry becomes a daily routine and joy quietly disappears. Peace doesn't come from living in the future. Peace lives in the present. The chapter gently introduces simple but effective practices like writing thoughts down so they don't keep spinning in your head, or creating small moments of stillness without screens, noise, or comparison. One powerful reminder stands out: you don't need to be happy all the time. Feeling sad, tired, or afraid is part of being human. But getting stuck inside those emotions is what causes harm. You are not your mind's servant. You are its owner. Instead of fighting negative thoughts, the book teaches you to understand them. When you fight a thought, it grows stronger. When you observe it and let it pass, it loses power. You don't need to change the world to calm your mind. You only need to change how you respond to it. You can't control everything, but you can choose what deserves your attention. The chapter closes with a comforting message. This book doesn't lecture or scare you. It speaks like a friend, reminding you that you're not alone, that constant mental noise is common, and that peace isn't far away. Your mind doesn't need pressure. It needs space, and once that space begins to open, life naturally starts to feel lighter. Chapter 2. Thoughts are not facts. Learn to let them pass. This chapter goes deeper into a mistake almost everyone makes without realizing it. We treat every thought as truth all day long. Thoughts keep appearing in the mind: memories, fears, assumptions, imagined outcomes. But most people never pause to question them. They simply believe whatever shows up. And slowly those thoughts start shaping emotions, decisions, and even identity. The authors explain something critical. A thought is just a mental event, not reality. Just because your mind says something doesn't mean it's accurate, useful, or worth trusting. The problem begins when we replay the same thought again and again. We give it attention, emotion, and energy. Over time, a small idea turns into a big fear. And then we start living as if that fear is real. The book uses a simple idea to explain this. Thoughts are like clouds. They come and go on their own. But when you try to grab a cloud, it suddenly feels heavy. The same happens with thoughts. When you cling to them, they become overwhelming. Most anxiety is not caused by what's happening right now, it's caused by what the mind keeps imagining. The authors emphasize that the mind is designed to look for danger. It always scans for what could go wrong. This helped humans survive in the past, but today it often creates unnecessary stress. The mind keeps asking questions that have no clear answers. What if something goes wrong? What if people judge me? What if I fail? These questions don't protect you, they drain you. This chapter teaches a powerful shift. Instead of fighting your thoughts, observe them. When a negative idea appears, don't argue with it. Don't suppress it. Simply notice it. Ask yourself, is this happening right now or only in my head? Most of the time, the answer is clear. Another important lesson is about repetition. The more you repeat a thought, the stronger it becomes. That's how worry turns into a habit. But habits can be weakened the same way they're formed, by changing attention. You don't need to stop thinking. You just need to stop over-engaging. The authors also explain that mental peace doesn't come from controlling thoughts. Control creates tension. Peace comes from allowing thoughts to pass without attachment. When you stop treating every thought as important, the mind naturally quiets down. This chapter gently reminds you, you are not your thoughts. You are the one who notices them, and the moment you create that distance, the mental weight begins to lift. Chapter 3. Worry lives in the future, peace exists in the present. This chapter reveals a simple but powerful truth. Worry is a habit of living in the future. Most of the stress people feel has nothing to do with what's happening right now. It comes from imagining what might happen. The mind jumps ahead, creates stories, adds fear, and then reacts as if those stories are already real. The authors explain that when your attention leaves the present moment, anxiety quietly takes over. The body may be safe, but the mind believes danger is coming. Worry asks endless questions. What if things go wrong? What if I fail? What if people judge me? These questions feel urgent, but they rarely have answers. And chasing answers that don't exist keeps the mind stuck in tension. Peace, on the other hand, doesn't live in the future. It only exists now. This chapter introduces a key shift. Instead of trying to solve every imagined problem, learn to return to the present moment. Not forcefully, not dramatically, just gently. One simple method the author suggests is writing your thoughts down. When thoughts stay wrapped in the mind, they keep looping. When you put them on paper, they lose some of their power. They become visible and easier to release. Another practice is creating small moments of stillness during the day. No phone, no noise, no comparison. Just being present. These moments give the mind a break from constant stimulation. The authors make an important point. You don't need to eliminate sadness, fear, or tiredness to find peace. These emotions are part of being human. The real damage happens when you resist them or get trapped inside them. Peace doesn't mean feeling good all the time. It means allowing feelings to come and go without letting them control you. This chapter also explains that overthinking is not intelligence, it's exhaustion. Replaying the same future scenario doesn't prepare you. It drains your energy and keeps you disconnected from life. When you bring your attention back to what's actually happening, your breathing, your body, your surroundings, the mind begins to calm itself. You don't have to fix tomorrow today. You just have to be here now. The chapter ends with a reassuring reminder. You are allowed to slow down. You are allowed to pause. And you are allowed to live one moment at a time. That's where peace quietly begins. Chapter 4. Stop fighting your mind. Understanding brings freedom. This chapter challenges a belief many people hold without questioning it, that peace comes from fighting negative thoughts. The authors explain that the more you try to force your mind to be calm, the more restless it becomes. Fighting thoughts only gives them attention, and attention gives them strength instead of battling the mind. This chapter teaches a smarter approach. Understand it. Negative thoughts don't appear because something is wrong with you. They appear because the mind has learned certain patterns over time. When you react with fear or resistance, those patterns grow stronger. When you observe them calmly, they slowly lose power. The book makes this point very clear. When you fight a thought, it feels important. When you understand it, it feels ordinary. This chapter explains that you don't need to change your thoughts to feel better. You only need to change how you respond to them. Reaction creates stress. Awareness creates space. The authors also remind us that control is an illusion. Trying to control every outcome, every emotion, and every situation only increases mental pressure. Life doesn't move according to our plans, and the sooner we accept that, the lighter the mind becomes. You cannot control everything, but you can choose how much importance you give to things. Another powerful idea in this chapter is about unanswered questions. The mind loves asking, "What if?" even when there is no answer. Carrying those questions all day silently drains your energy. The authors suggest something simple but freeing. You don't need 100% certainty to live your life. You need courage and trust in yourself. Mental clutter starts clearing when you accept that not everything is in your control. This acceptance is not weakness. It's freedom. The chapter closes with a warm reminder. This book is not here to judge or pressure you. It speaks gently, like a friend who understands your struggle and reminds you that peace is not far away. You don't need to fix your mind. You need to stop fighting it, and the moment you do, the noise slowly begins to fade. Chapter 5. You are not your thoughts' separate identity from the mind. This chapter introduces one of the most freeing ideas in the entire book. Your thoughts are not your identity. Most people don't just experience thoughts, they become them. A thought appears, "I'm weak," and slowly it turns into a belief, "This is who I am." The authors explain that this is where real mental weight begins. When you start identifying with every thought, your mind becomes heavy with labels, judgments, and false definitions. A thought is just a mental wave. It rises and it falls, but when you grab onto it, repeat it, and believe it, it starts shaping how you see yourself. This chapter teaches you to step back and observe thoughts without turning them into your identity. Just because a thought says something about you doesn't make it true. You are not the voice in your head. You are the one listening to it. The authors explain that many people unknowingly collect labels over time: anxious, unsuccessful, insecure, not good enough. These labels feel permanent, but they're not. They're habits of thinking, and habits can change. Another important idea in this chapter is about expectations, especially those placed by others. Society, family, and relationships often create silent pressure about who you should be, how you should act, and what you should achieve. When you carry those expectations inside your mind, they become mental clutter. Trying to meet everyone's standards is exhausting, and it never ends. The authors remind you that you don't have to please everyone to live peacefully. Learning to prioritize your inner calm is not selfish, it's necessary. This chapter also explains that anxiety often comes from the stories we create, not from reality itself. A small event becomes a dramatic future in the mind. Fear gets added, judgment gets added, and suddenly the story feels real. The solution is simple but powerful. Ask yourself, is this happening right now or only in my head? Most of the time, it's only a story. The chapter ends by reinforcing a gentle truth. Peace doesn't come from changing who you are. It comes from realizing you were never the problem. Once you stop identifying with every thought, the mind becomes lighter and life feels easier to breathe. Chapter 6. Your mind learns through habits, and habits can be rewritten. This chapter focuses on a truth most people overlook. The mind runs on habits. Just like the body adjusts to repeated actions, the mind adapts to repeated thoughts. Whatever you think most often becomes the path your mind follows automatically. And over time, that path starts to feel normal, even if it leads to stress and anxiety. The authors explain that worry is not a personality trait. It's a trained behavior. If you start each day by feeding anxious thoughts, the mind learns that this is the default way to operate. Slowly, worry becomes familiar, and familiarity feels safe, even when it's harmful. But here's the hope this chapter offers. Habits are learned, and anything learned can be unlearned. Mental clarity doesn't come from sudden change. It comes from small, consistent adjustments. When you pause, observe your thoughts, and choose not to follow them every time, you begin creating a new mental habit. At first, this feels uncomfortable. The mind prefers old patterns because they're familiar. Silence feels strange. Stillness feels awkward. But this discomfort is not failure, it's proof that change has begun. The authors emphasize that cleaning the mind doesn't mean forcing positivity. It means building habits that gently guide your thinking toward calm instead of fear. One key practice discussed is awareness. When you notice your thoughts instead of automatically reacting to them, you weaken old patterns. Awareness breaks the loop. Another powerful idea is separating responsibility from control. You are responsible for your effort, not for outcomes. Trying to control results only adds pressure and disappointment. This chapter also explains why the mind resists change. Old thoughts feel familiar even if they cause pain. New ways of thinking feel uncertain even if they bring peace. The mind naturally clings to what it knows. That's why patience is essential. Change doesn't happen in one moment. It happens in small pauses, repeated daily. The chapter ends with reassurance. You don't need to rebuild your mind. You just need to guide it gently, consistently, and with compassion. Over time, the mind follows where attention goes. And slowly the noise begins to fade. Chapter 7. Stop letting old stories define who you are. This chapter explores how people unknowingly trap themselves inside old stories built from past mistakes, painful experiences, and repeated self-judgment. The authors explain that the mind loves to create a fixed identity. Once you label yourself, I'm always anxious, I always fail, I'm not confident, the mind starts looking for proof to support that label. Over time, these stories stop feeling like thoughts. They start feeling like facts. But the truth is simple. A story is not your destiny. This chapter reminds you that who you were in the past does not decide who you are allowed to be now. The mind may replay old failures, but those memories are not instructions for your future. One powerful idea in this chapter is that the mind confuses familiarity with truth. If a negative story has been repeated for years, it feels real even when it's not accurate anymore. The authors encourage you to question these stories instead of obeying them. Ask yourself, is this who I truly am or just a version of me shaped by old experiences? Another key lesson here is about self-talk. The way you speak to yourself becomes the tone of your mind. Harsh inner language trains the mind to stay tense and defensive. Gentle inner language teaches safety. You don't motivate yourself by attacking yourself. You exhaust yourself. The chapter also explains that letting go of old stories doesn't mean denying the past. It means refusing to live inside it. Learning from experience is healthy. Living in regret is not. The authors highlight that real freedom begins when you stop using your past as a measuring stick for your present. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to grow. You are allowed to be lighter than before. This chapter closes with a comforting reminder. You are not behind in life. You are not damaged. You are simply evolving, and when you release the weight of old stories, the mind finally gets space to breathe. Chapter 8. Learn to pause. Stillness is not wasted time. This chapter focuses on something modern life quietly steals from us, the ability to pause. The authors explain that most people keep their minds constantly busy not because they want to, but because they're afraid of stillness. Silence feels uncomfortable. Empty time feels unproductive. So the mind stays filled with noise, but that noise is exactly what keeps the mind heavy. This chapter teaches that stillness is not laziness. It's maintenance. When you never pause, the mind never gets a chance to reset. It stays in survival mode, always reacting, always rushing, always thinking. The authors explain that silence isn't something you achieve through effort. It happens naturally when you stop filling every moment with stimulation. A few minutes without your phone. A few moments without distraction. A few breaths without rushing. These small pauses send a powerful message to the mind. You are safe right now. This chapter also explains why people fear quiet moments. When the noise stops, thoughts surface. Unresolved feelings appear. And instead of facing them, many people escape into busyness. But avoidance doesn't remove mental weight. It hides it. Stillness allows the mind to process what it has been carrying. It gives thoughts space to settle instead of colliding with each other. The authors also clarify that pausing doesn't mean overthinking. It means observing without judgment. Letting thoughts appear and letting them pass. Another important idea in this chapter is about patience. Mental clarity doesn't come from forcing silence. It comes from repeatedly allowing moments of quiet until the mind learns that stillness is safe. You don't need hours of meditation. You need moments of presence. The chapter ends with a gentle reminder. Life doesn't need to be rushed to be meaningful. Rest doesn't slow you down, it steadies you. And when you allow stillness into your day, The mind slowly learns how to rest again. Chapter 9. The power of perspective. Ever noticed how two people can face the exact same situation, yet one thrives while the other falls apart? It's not luck, it's perspective. How you interpret what happens shapes the reality you live in. Most people see challenges as roadblocks. Mentally strong individuals see them as opportunities. They understand that setbacks are temporary and that every problem carries a lesson or a hidden advantage. Life doesn't just happen to you, your perspective decides how it impacts you. Ask yourself, are you merely reacting to what happens, or are you actively shaping how you see it? The moment you shift your lens, fear starts to lose its grip, stress eases, and clarity emerges. Perspective isn't about thinking positively in a naive way. It's about thinking strategically. It's noticing the bigger picture, spotting possibilities where others see problems, and staying calm even when pressure mounts. This mindset doesn't just affect your decisions, it transforms your entire life. You can't always control what happens around you, but you can control how you see it. Change your perspective and you change your outcomes. Chapter 10. Lightening your mind. The art of mental decluttering. And waking up, but your mind is already weighed down. Fatigue hits before you even get out of bed. Your thoughts spin like clutter in a messy room, leaving no space for clarity. Sound familiar? This is how most minds feel today. Fast-paced life outside, heavy load inside. This chapter dives into clearing that mental clutter. You're not broken or weak. You're simply carrying too much. Worries, fears, past mistakes, other people's expectations, they pile up silently, shaping your stress and anxiety. The good news: habits can change, and changing them is the first step toward a lighter mind. The authors explain that overthinking and constant rumination aren't your enemy, they're signals. Trying to fight negative thoughts only gives them more power. Instead, observe them. Let them come and go like clouds drifting across the sky. Not every thought is true, and not every emotion needs action. Simple practices can make a huge difference. Write down recurring thoughts to release them. Take small moments of stillness without your phone, without distractions. Just breathe, just be. True peace isn't about controlling the world. It's about controlling your attention and your response. The chapter also highlights self-compassion. Forgive yourself for mistakes, let go of past regrets, and release what you can't control. Social comparison, self-criticism, and trying to please everyone only add weight. Recognize the difference between responsibility and control. You are responsible for your effort, not the outcome. Gratitude and presence are powerful tools. Focus on what is here, not what's missing. Notice the small, ordinary positives. These moments anchor you in the present and reduce anxiety about the future. Patience is key. Mental clarity doesn't come overnight. Daily small steps, pausing, observing, releasing, gradually lighten the load. Your mind starts to feel like an ally rather than a burden. Ultimately, mental decluttering isn't about perfection or total silence. It's about understanding, patience, and self-compassion. Your mind, like a room, needs regular cleaning. When you give it space, calm, and attention, life feels lighter, and peace becomes natural. Chapter 11. Mastering your thoughts. From overthinking to awareness. Have you ever noticed how your mind keeps replaying the same worries, doubts, or fears like a broken record? This chapter dives into that habit of overthinking and shows how it quietly drains your energy. Overthinking isn't the problem itself. The problem is giving every thought too much weight. When you replay mistakes, imagine worst-case scenarios, or obsess over others' opinions, your mind becomes a crowded room with no space to breathe. And when space disappears, stress grows. The authors explain that thoughts are not facts. Just because a thought arises doesn't make it true. You are not your thoughts. They are like waves coming, rising, and eventually fading away. Your job is to notice them, not to fight them. Observing thoughts without judgment is the first step toward clarity. Small habits can make a huge difference. Pause and ask yourself, is this thought real or just my mind spinning a story? Write down persistent thoughts to release them from your mental space. Take a few minutes to breathe deeply, just noticing the present moment. These tiny practices train your mind to step back instead of getting lost in endless loops. Self-compassion is another key focus. Be as kind to yourself as you would be to a friend. Stop harshly criticizing every mistake or worrying over things you cannot control. Responsibility matters, outcomes don't. Letting go of what's beyond your control frees your mind instantly. The chapter also highlights the dangers of social comparison. You see only fragments of others' lives and judge yourself harshly, adding invisible weight. Recognizing that comparison is a trap helps your mind relax. Ultimately, mental clarity comes from consistent practice, not perfection. Each day you notice your thoughts, release unnecessary ones, and allow yourself small pauses, your mind becomes lighter. Over time, overthinking loses power and awareness takes its place. By the end of this chapter, you realize mastering your thoughts isn't about controlling every idea that arises, it's about understanding them, letting go of what doesn't serve you, and creating space for calm, clarity, and peace. Chapter 12. Anchoring yourself presence over anxiety. You ever feel like your mind is always racing ahead, chasing what happened yesterday or fearing what might happen tomorrow? This chapter focuses on bringing your attention back to the only place that truly matters, the present moment. The authors explain that anxiety isn't caused by events themselves, but by the stories we create around them. A minor inconvenience becomes a catastrophe in the mind because we rehearse it, amplify it, and imagine endless negative outcomes. When we stop obsessing over what-ifs and ground ourselves in the present, the mind finally gets a chance to breathe. Simple, small practices can anchor you. Notice your breath, take a pause from your phone, or just sit quietly for a few moments each day. These pauses send a subtle but powerful message to your brain: you are safe right now. Over time, these moments of presence train the mind to stop spinning endlessly and start resting. The chapter also highlights that life doesn't require constant positivity. Feeling tired, sad, or frustrated is part of being human, but staying stuck in those emotions makes them heavier. The key is observing them without judgment, allowing feelings to pass naturally. This creates mental space and a sense of control over your inner world. Self-talk plays a huge role in presence. Treat yourself like a friend, avoid harsh criticism and judgments that fuel stress. Gentle, compassionate inner dialogue calms the mind and reduces unnecessary mental clutter. Another important lesson is distinguishing between preparation and worry. Preparing for the future strengthens you. Worrying weakens you. Focus on what you can act on and release the rest. The mind doesn't need to carry the weight of everything, it only needs to notice and respond to what matters. Finally, the authors emphasize that peace is not found outside but inside. It comes from creating space, letting go of unnecessary thoughts, and embracing the present without forcing it to be different. Every small moment of mindfulness, every conscious pause, slowly builds mental freedom. By the end of this chapter, you realize that anchoring yourself in the present isn't about escaping problems, it's about giving your mind the clarity and calm to face them effectively. Life starts feeling lighter and your mental energy is finally your own. Chapter 13. Setting boundaries, protecting your mental space. Have you ever felt drained by constantly trying to meet everyone's expectations? This chapter focuses on the importance of setting boundaries, both with others and with yourself too. Keep your mind clear and balanced. The authors explain that we often carry the invisible weight of other people's demands, opinions, and judgments. We feel responsible for their happiness, for their reactions, and even for their approval. This constant pressure overloads the mind, creating unnecessary stress and anxiety. Boundaries aren't about shutting people out, they're about protecting your mental space. Saying no when you need to, limiting exposure to negativity, and being selective about where you invest your energy are essential habits for a healthy mind. The chapter emphasizes that your peace is not negotiable. Self-compassion plays a key role here. Treat yourself with the same care you give others. Stop taking on blame for things that aren't your responsibility. Responsibility lies in your effort, not in controlling every outcome or everyone else's feelings. The authors also highlight the subtle yet powerful impact of social comparison. When we measure ourselves against others, we fill our minds with unnecessary clutter and self-doubt. Recognizing that comparison is a trap and consciously letting it go creates mental space and frees energy for what truly matters. Another important lesson is slowing down. Life isn't a race. Pausing to observe your thoughts, allowing feelings to pass, and creating small moments of stillness are all acts of boundary setting. These moments signal to your mind that it's safe to relax and that not every thought or emotion requires action. By the end of this chapter, you understand that boundaries are not selfish, they are essential. Protecting your mental space allows you to focus on what's truly important, respond to challenges with clarity, and experience life with a sense of calm and balance. Chapter 14. Embracing uncertainty, finding strength in the unknown. Have you ever felt trapped by the fear of the unknown? This chapter explores how accepting uncertainty can actually free your mind and strengthen your life. The authors explain that most anxiety comes from imagining a future that doesn't exist yet. The mind constantly predicts, worries, and anticipates problems, most of which may never happen. When you try to control every outcome, mental clutter multiplies and stress becomes a constant companion. Instead of fighting uncertainty, the chapter teaches you to embrace it. Accept that you can't control everything and focus on what you can influence: your actions, your reactions, and your mindset. This simple shift dramatically reduces fear and mental load. Small habits can help. Pause and ask yourself, is this thought about the present or the imagined future? Notice when your mind is creating scenarios that may never come true. Journaling, breathing exercises, and quiet reflection anchor you in reality, rather than the hypothetical. The chapter also emphasizes courage, not the absence of fear but the willingness to act despite it. Facing the unknown with awareness, rather than avoidance, trains your mind to stay calm under pressure. Over time, uncertainty becomes less intimidating and more like a natural part of life. Self-compassion and patience are essential. Be kind to yourself when fear arises. Don't judge your anxiety, observe it, learn from it, and let it pass. Mental clarity grows when you stop battling your emotions and start understanding them. Finally, the authors remind us that embracing uncertainty doesn't mean passivity. Preparation, thoughtful action, and reflection are still important, but they should be grounded in the present, not in imagined fears. By letting go of the need for absolute control, your mind finally finds room to breathe, to think clearly, and to focus on what truly matters. By the end of this chapter, you realize that life's unpredictability isn't a threat, it's an opportunity. Accepting the unknown lightens your mental load, builds resilience, and opens the door to true inner peace. Chapter 15, Letting Go, Releasing What You Cannot Control. Have you ever felt mentally exhausted from carrying things you can't change? This chapter focuses on the powerful practice of letting go, releasing thoughts, emotions, and expectations that weigh you down. The authors explain that much of mental clutter comes from holding on to what's outside your control: other people's opinions, past mistakes, unmet expectations, and imagined scenarios. Trying to control these only increases stress and drains your energy. Letting go doesn't mean ignoring responsibilities, it means distinguishing between what you can influence and what you cannot. By consciously releasing the latter, you free up mental space for clarity, creativity, and calm. Practical exercises help anchor this practice. Pause when a thought or worry arises. Ask yourself, can I do something about this, or am I holding on to what I cannot control? If it's the latter, allow yourself to release it. Journaling, breathing, and reflective pauses strengthen this habit. Self-compassion plays a central role. Stop punishing yourself for things that went wrong or for things that others do. Forgiveness, both for yourself and others, lightens the mental load. When you stop replaying past errors and grudges, your mind begins to rest. The authors also emphasize patience. Letting go is a process, not an instant change. Small daily steps, pausing, observing, releasing, gradually weaken the hold of unnecessary thoughts and fears. Finally, the chapter reminds you that life doesn't require perfection or constant control. When you release the unchangeable, your focus naturally shifts to the present moment and to actions that matter. Peace emerges not from eliminating challenges, but from clearing the mental space to respond to them with calm, clarity, and purpose. By the end of this chapter, you realize that letting go is not loss, it's liberation. Releasing mental clutter allows your mind to breathe, your heart to settle, and your life to feel lighter, freer, and more intentional. Chapter 16, Building Habits, Small Choices. Big mental freedom. Have you ever noticed how the smallest daily choices shape your entire mental landscape? This chapter explores how building mindful habits can declutter your mind and create lasting mental freedom. The authors explain that the mind runs on routines. Just as your body adapts to daily physical habits, your thinking patterns are shaped by repeated mental habits, some helpful, many unnecessary. Over time, these mental routines either create stress and overthinking or build clarity and calm. Small, consistent actions make the difference. Start with tiny pauses each day to observe your thoughts. Write down repetitive worries, practice brief moments of stillness, or simply take a few mindful breaths. These micro-habits signal to your mind that not every thought demands energy or reaction. The chapter emphasizes patience. Habits don't change overnight. Your mind is used 2 years of accumulated patterns, and forcing change too quickly often backfires. Gentle, daily repetition, allowing yourself to notice, release, and reset gradually rewires your mental landscape. Self-compassion is a crucial companion in this process. Treat mistakes and slip-ups as part of the learning curve. Don't punish yourself for old habits resurfacing. Observe, adjust, and move forward. Over time, your mind begins to favor habits that support clarity, presence, and calm. Another key insight is aligning habits with values. When your daily choices reflect what truly matters to you, mental clutter reduces naturally. You stop wasting energy on trivial concerns, social comparisons, or unnecessary anxieties. By the end of this chapter, you understand that mental freedom doesn't require monumental effort. It comes from the accumulation of small intentional habits. Each mindful choice chips away at unnecessary mental load, gradually creating space for calm, focus, and genuine peace. Chapter 17. The Mind as Your Ally. Mastering Inner Peace. Imagine if your mind wasn't your enemy but your ally. This final chapter ties together all the lessons of mental clarity, showing how to transform your mind from a source of clutter into a partner in living fully. The authors explain that most mental struggles come from treating thoughts and emotions as threats. We fight against worry, suppress feelings, and try to control outcomes, creating tension instead of calm. The key is understanding that the mind is not the enemy. It's a tool. And like any tool, it works best when respected and understood. This chapter focuses on observation over judgment. Watch your thoughts, notice your emotions, and allow them to pass without labeling them good or bad. When you stop resisting your mind's natural processes, mental energy once spent on struggle is freed for clarity and action. Self-awareness becomes your greatest asset. By noticing habitual thinking, unnecessary comparisons, and repetitive worries, you gain the power to intervene. You can choose which thoughts to engage with and which to release. This conscious attention gradually trains the mind to work with you, not against you. The authors also reinforce the importance of presence, boundaries, and small habits. Pausing, breathing, letting go of what you cannot control, and aligning actions with values. All of these practices compound over time to create a resilient, calm, and clear mind. Finally, the chapter reminds you that peace is a practice, not a destination. There will always be challenges, uncertainty, and moments of stress, but the way you respond is what shapes your inner life. When you treat your mind as an ally, even difficult experiences become opportunities for growth and understanding. By the end of this chapter, the message is clear. You don't need to fight your mind or eliminate all negative thoughts. Instead, learn to listen, understand, and guide it gently. True mental freedom comes when the mind becomes your partner, not your enemy, and in that partnership lies real inner peace. Chapter 18. Daily Practices. Turning awareness into action. How do you take all the mental clarity lessons and make them stick in real life? This chapter shows how small, consistent daily practices can transform awareness into action and keep your mind light and focused. The authors emphasize that mental freedom is built one small step at a time. It's not about drastic changes or perfect routines, but about simple, intentional habits repeated daily. Pausing for a few minutes each morning, journaling thoughts before bed, or just noticing your mental chatter. These tiny acts accumulate into lasting calm. They also highlight the power of reflection. At the end of each day, take stock of your thoughts and feelings. What drained you? What supported your peace? By observing patterns without judgment, you teach your mind what to prioritize and what to release. Consistency is more important than intensity. Even a few mindful minutes each day signal to your mind that it's safe to slow down, to release unnecessary tension, and to focus on what matters. Over time, these small moments compound into a resilient, clear, and calm mental state. The chapter also reinforces earlier lessons: setting boundaries, letting go of what you cannot control, staying present, and treating your mind as an ally. Daily practices are simply the bridge between understanding these principles and living them effortlessly. Finally, the authors remind us that patience is key. Change is gradual. Mental clutter didn't appear overnight, and it won't disappear overnight either. Small, repeated actions done with compassion and awareness gradually lighten the load, leaving space for focus, creativity, and genuine inner peace. By the end of this chapter, you understand that lasting mental clarity is not a destination, it's a daily practice. Every small step you take to observe, release, and refocus strengthens your mind and creates a life that feels lighter, calmer, and more intentional. Chapter 19. Mastering focus, protecting your mental energy. Have you ever felt your mind pulled in 100 directions at once? This chapter teaches how to protect your mental energy and master focus in a world full of distractions. The authors explain that mental clutter often comes from scattered attention. Notifications, endless tasks, and constant comparison drain your energy and cloud your clarity. The key to mental freedom is learning where to direct your focus and where to let go. Practical strategies are highlighted. Limit distractions, prioritize tasks that align with your values, and schedule moments of uninterrupted focus. Even a few minutes of deep attention daily can dramatically improve mental clarity and reduce stress. The chapter emphasizes saying no as a superpower. Not every request, task, or obligation deserves your energy. Protecting your attention is not selfish, it's necessary for maintaining calm and focus. Self-awareness is crucial. Notice when your mind is wandering or being pulled into unnecessary worry. Pause, breathe, and redirect. This simple habit strengthens your mental resilience and gradually trains your mind to stay present. Finally, the authors remind you that focus and presence are not rigid rules, they are skills built over time. By consistently protecting your attention, observing your thoughts, and letting go of distractions, your mind becomes clearer, calmer, and more capable of meaningful action. By the end of this chapter, the lesson is clear. Mental energy is your most valuable resource. Guard it, focus it, and direct it toward what truly matters. In doing so, your mind becomes a tool for clarity, productivity, and peace, not a source of chaos. Chapter 20, Embracing the Present, Living with Mental Freedom. How often do we spend life trapped in the past or worrying about the future? This chapter teaches the ultimate practice of embracing the present moment, a cornerstone of true mental freedom. The authors explain that most mental clutter comes from overthinking what's already happened or fearing what's yet to come. Every what if and if only consumes energy that could be used to live fully here and now. They emphasize the power of presence. Simple practices focusing on your breath, noticing your surroundings, and fully engaging in current tasks anchor the mind and reduce unnecessary stress. Presence doesn't ignore problems. It allows you to respond to them with clarity and calm, rather than reacting from anxiety or fear. Letting go of mental attachment is key. Holding on to regrets, grudges, or imagined outcomes keeps the mind cluttered and restless. Observing these thoughts without judgment, then consciously releasing them, creates space for peace and intentional action. The chapter also reinforces the role of gratitude, recognizing what's already here, small victories, supportive people, and everyday moments of joy shifts focus from scarcity to abundance, further clearing mental space. Finally, the authors remind us that living in the present is a skill built gradually through daily practice. Each mindful moment, each conscious breath, each choice to release what cannot be controlled compounds into lasting mental clarity. By the end of this chapter, the message is clear. Mental freedom is found not by escaping life's challenges, but by fully inhabiting each moment. When you embrace the present, the mind becomes lighter, calmer, and more capable of experiencing life with clarity, purpose, and genuine peace.